Cappies, and welcome to the Talking Capybara, a weekly audiobook review curated by me, Inday, where I give my personal take on the variety of books I have in my Kindle and the lessons I have learned from them. I spent some time this week diving into a few gems on my Kindle, and I can't wait to share them with you, from thought provoking nonfiction to immersive fiction. I'll be breaking down what resonated with me, what made me pause, and the little nuggets of wisdom I picked up along the way. Whether you're here to discover your next read or just to enjoy some honest reflections on books, I've got you covered. So grab a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's talk about books. For this week's episode of The Talking Capybara, I'm going to discuss a book which is different from all the other books that I have read, in the sense that it portrayed family, love, friendship in a different perspective. It showed me how life is in the eyes of different creatures living in our world. It paved the way for me to understand that somehow how we see the world is different from how other creatures see the world around them. And it also made me feel that maybe there are just sometimes that we are overthinking about things and that we shouldn't do it. Instead, we should take the world as it is and live life beautifully. We should enjoy every bit of the moment that we are living. And this story is called Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This story is about Tova Sullivan, a 70-year-old widow who cleans a local aquarium at night to cope with the longingness because of the mysterious disappearance of her son, Eric. Eric was young. I bet he was like 17, 18 when he mysteriously disappeared. Tova and her then husband didn't know what happened to Eric. Like, no idea. No other people knew about what happened to Eric, about why he disappeared, and if it's because he doesn't want to be with his family anymore, or maybe because something bad happened to him. So Tova here did not have any closure. She made herself feel miserable because of what happened to Eric, and the idea that she didn't have a formal funeral for him if ever Eric did really die. And what makes this story different is that there are a lot of point of views that Remarkably Bright Creatures gave us. It had Tova's point of view, how she sees the world after all these years and after the loss of her son. And apparently, there's also the point of view of another person, which would later on be unveiled as someone related to Tova. And the other point of view, I guess, which is very, very shocking, was the point of view of a giant Pacific octopus. When I first read the title Remarkably Bright Creatures, I really thought that it's just about animals. So when I look at Book Talk and found Remarkably Bright Creatures as one of their highly recommended book, I really thought, this will be dull because I'm not into animals. But then I'm also curious of why it was called Remarkably Bright Creatures. Well, the it just so happened, I guess, that maybe, just maybe, it is actually the octopus, which is the main character of the story, which I think it is. The giant Pacific octopus here was called Marcellus. Tova named him as Marcellus, if I'm not mistaken. And then Marcellus is a very intelligent octopus. Apparently, he is captive inside the aquarium, the local aquarium. And because every night there is Tova there, Tova and Marcellus developed a silent connection. You know, what makes this book also very enticing is that the giant Pacific octopus was seen by Tova as it is, an octopus. But for Marcellus, he could talk. In his point of view, he could talk, he could narrate everything, he could understand what Tova is doing. He wanted Tova to understand him. Apparently, the story discusses the life of a giant Pacific octopus, how it is short, and how, in one way or another, Marcellus would die. And so Marcellus was like, okay, I want to enjoy life. I want to have fun. I want to eat whatever I want to eat. But then the aquarium actually is very strict with his diet because they don't want him to get fat. So Marcellus would escape from his tank. And then Tova here found out that Marcellus was escaping every night to get some food that he likes. So one time, he found Tova found Marcellus lying on the ground, eventually at the verge of dying, because it took him a while to get back to his tank. So what Tova did was he helped Marcellus get back on his tank. And at that moment, Marcellus gripped his tentacles to with the hands of Tova. So Tova here felt scared, of course, but then she realized with how Marcellus holds her hand that no, Marcellus was not scaring her, or that Marcellus was not trying to eat her. It was more of Marcellus wanting to thank Tova of what she did for him. So as time goes by, the giant octopus and Tova develop a habit, a harmony, or a relationship, a coexisting one with each other. And I think that's what's different with this book. And I've told you a while ago that there's another person whose point of view was taken into consideration in the book Remarkably Bright Creatures. And this one was about a guy named Cameron Casmore. Cameron is a struggling young man who arrives in town. So he's from a different place and interacts with Tova's life, leading to the discovery of his connection to her past. So Tova had an accident which made her feel sick, and that what happened was Cameron took her job for a while as a cleaner for the local aquarium, and there he met Marcellus. Cameron met Marcellus, and eventually, I tell you, Marcellus here is very intelligent. He somewhat felt that Cameron looks like Tova. So what Marcellus did was he stole the ID of Cameron in the hopes that when Tova eventually gets back to the local aquarium, she would see the ID and would realize that there's a connection with Cameron and Tova. But when Tova came back, she didn't really understand what Marcellus was trying to communicate with her. Of course, Marcellus is an octopus. How could an octopus say something? But then Marcellus did a lot of things which would help him get the attention of Tova, and somewhat convey to her that Cameron is someone that you should know, is someone that needs to be acquainted with you. Tova and Cameron eventually were able to meet and talk, but it didn't really dawn upon Tova what's the connection between her and Cameron. So Marcellus here was really, really thinking of what he could do. Eventually, Marcellus was able to convey to these two that Tova and Cameron are familiarly related to each other, family related. It turns out that Cameron is the son of Eric. Technically, Cameron is Tova's grandson. So when Eric was young, he apparently got pregnant a girl, and then this girl had Cameron outside. She didn't really told about Tova, and then her husband at that time that your son was pregnant. I was pregnant impregnated by your son. And so Tova was so shocked and at the same time happy that finally she has a family. She will not be lonely anymore. And that's what I like about this book because Tova found a friend with Marcellus. She's alone. She's been alone for most of the time of her life. And when Marcellus came into the picture, she was so happy that she found a companion. And what's more intriguing also is how Marcellus helped her find her grandson, although she didn't even know that she has a grandson. And the most shocking twist also of this story, the reason why Marcellus thought that Tova is related with Cameron is because Marcellus apparently witnessed what happened to Eric, why he disappeared. So Eric was actually on a boat when he accidentally fell out of it and dropped into the sea. No help for him. Apparently, he died. So Marcellus knew what happened to Eric. So I think that's what made the story colorful because at first you would never know why there's this three point of views and why of course you would think what's the connection of the three narrators. And I just loved how it unfolded, how really these three are connected with each other because of their past. And somehow it connected them and made them whole. All the three characters. The saddest part is that a giant Pacific octopus's life is short. And so, at the end of the story, Marcellus is about to die. And of course, he doesn't want to die in the tank, in the local aquarium. He wants to be out in the sea, getting all the food he wants, living his life there as mighty as he could. So, what Tova and Cameron did was took him out of the tank and help him get to the sea. And I just felt sad or a little bit of emotion on that particular scene because, of course, if you have been attached with someone, you didn't want them to go. You didn't want seeing them die. You just want to be with them forever. And so when Tova and Cameron let go of Marcellus, I think that's the greatest act of love that they did, letting Marcellus go and find his true happiness in the sea. And that's what love should look like sometimes. We should not be trolling. We should not let our principles hold someone back. We should be open and embrace their morals also, what they want, what their views are. So that's what made me feel so intrigued by this book. How love was seen by Tova here. Eventually in the book, she also didn't want to burden Cameron of taking care of her. But then they were able to sort it out. And then Cameron here also was struggling to find love because he feels like he doesn't belong. Like there's no other person who could love him better. And there's just one little idea or piece of his life that's missing. And when he met Tova, when he discovered that Tova is his grandmother, he realized that this is it. This is the piece of me that has been missing for the whole time. And it's just nice how the story unfold, how the author caters the principles and ideas of three different characters: an old woman, a young man, and an octopus. These are three different categories of characters you didn't even cannot even imagine would be good in a book. So this is once a shocking for me, a shocking read, and I really really loved it. Plus the book cover is so colorful. And it's because I think because of the giant octopus, since a giant octopus is said to change its color based on what it is feeling. So that's I think one of the best thing about reading a book. You are going to be surprised with how much things you would find in it. No? I mean, in one little book, you would get nuggets of wisdom and emotions, feelings, which you really wouldn't thought of having. And of course, to end this episode of the Talking Capybara, I would like to leave a message of friendship that so once in your life you will find people or an animal which you would be close with, which you would think you cannot live without them. And you have been building your life with these friends, and sometimes it will not go beyond, it would go beyond your expectations. You would never imagine breaking up with these friends, but then it's okay, that's part of life. There's just people who wanted to let go and get their happiness somewhere else, even if it's not with you. It's okay. You have to let them go and be happy for them and wish for their wellness and that happiness be showered to them, even if you're not together anymore. And remarkably bright creatures is that we should also be remarkably bright creatures, not only with other people's, but with other animals.